effort to lay the predicate that people that we are going to have to tackle here in droves. It is incumbent on us to do everything that we can to keep government in check and hold them accountable and make sure that they are using our tax dollars wisely. So as we have been going around county to county, city to city, making the case that government is excessively and wastefully spending your tax dollars, we have found a bunch already. Here is some of the information that we have found in 6 counties. $190 million of excessive, wasteful spending in Orange County. $199 million in excessive and wasteful spending in the city of Jacksonville. $278 million of excessive, wasteful spending in Hillsborough County. $84 million in Alachua County, $189 million in Broward County, and $48 million in excessive wasteful spending in Seminole County. In just these 6 local governments alone, we have uncovered almost $1 billion in wasteful, excessive spending in just the 24-25 fiscal year budget. That is 1 year every year. Now, the media has been getting it wrong. They have been saying it has been $1 billion over the last 5 years. $278 million in Hillsborough County, they say, well, that's over 5 years. No, that's 1 year. That is last year. To help put that in context, that is $1 billion that belong in the hands of you, the taxpayers, and not in the hands of government. That is $1 billion of property tax cuts they could have given you this year and could have easily done that, in our opinion, with 0 cuts to services. Now, before we start talking about cuts to services, because local governments are going to come out and they're going to say anything that they possibly can in order to try to keep their large, bloated budgets. I'm going to say this now, and I will say this forever. The first rule of government is to protect its citizens. In order to do that, the very first thing that they should be budgeting for is our first responders, fire and police. So when you hear anyone at local government saying that they're going to have to lay off our first responders, tell them, nope, we know the numbers, we know the real deal. Stop with the political games, stop with the spin. Our first responders, our fire and police should always be prioritized when it comes to spending. And they're going to continue listing a parade of horribles out there. We have predicted when we did the very first one about a month and a half ago, that local governments were going to come out, they were going to try to refute our numbers. They were going to try to throw out their own numbers to confuse you guys. They were going to be on TV trying to say that we're off base. They're going to go on TV saying that they need to keep every dollar of their bloated budgets because of some reason. And their friends in the media and their Sunday editorials are doing exactly what we said that they were going to do. They're going out and they're calling out us, saying that our information is wrong. They're going out and saying that government, they're going to have to cut services. Don't believe anything that they say, and hopefully I'm going to show you here today why what they're saying is not accurate. They're going to say you're going to have long wait times when you call 911. We're going to have to lay off fire, police, and they're going to have to eliminate government services. They're going to try to refute our numbers, which they can't. They're going to have their big government apologists continue to go out and try to pen those Sunday editorials claiming that the increases in their budgets is well spent. They're going to say it is because inflation and population has grown. Now, I want everyone to look right here. This started about a week after we presented the first numbers. We had predicted this, and right on cue, the media delivered. This was in the Tampa Bay Times. The increases in their budgets, they were excusing by saying the increases are largely attributable to inflation and rising population, not government graft, local leaders say. Well, of course they're going to say that. but we are here to call BS. Now, before we start unveiling numbers, here's a little about our methodology and how we arrive at these numbers, and why you can see why we can say that safely that local governments are not being truthful with you when they say they need all of this money. This is how we did this. We started off with a baseline budget. The baseline budget we use for our calculations is the 2019-2020 fiscal year budget. That's the first budget that happened before COVID hit. That's our base budget. That is the budget before we had an explosion in government funding, whether it's come from COVID money coming down for the federal government or real estate taxes, 2019, 2018. And then what we did is we indexed it every year for inflation and population. We indexed it. We took the base budget, indexed it forward for 5 years, accounting for inflation and population growth. That means we came up with the number of where the budget should have reasonably been if you accounted for all the inflation and population. That means we included extra money to add for fire and police, for law enforcement, for general government employees. We included the extra cost that they would have to spend on things because of inflation. We have accounted for the normal growth of government in our numbers. We've accounted for everything that a local government should or would need in order to deliver services to the taxpayers. And I'm sorry to say that Manatee County blew right past that number. Blew right past that number. Now, on a percentage basis, Manatee County is probably the worst that we've come across so far, and the amount of the percentage over and above inflation and population. I also want to highlight also that I am here in Manatee County, which is a deep red county. Republicans out-registered Democrats 2-to-1 in this county. I have said, and I will continue to say, that wasteful excessive spending knows no partisan bounds. I, as the CFO of the great state of Florida, am going to call out wasteful spending, whether it is a Republican county or a Democrat county, because that is the only way you guys are going to know if I am being truthful with you. And I'm going to tell you right now, the big government apologists who are out there hitting the airwaves and writing the editorials, they are not being truthful with you. In fact, their rhetoric is saying that we're only doing this exercise in blue counties. That is absolutely not true. We've already done Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County is a red county, and they have more Republicans on their county commission than Democrats. We did Seminole County, same thing, and now we're in deep red Manatee County. So we've crunched the numbers. Once we took the budget, brought it forward, indexed for inflation and population to find out what Manatee County's general fund budget should be reasonably at this time, they blew past that number by $112 million. Manatee County does not have a huge budget. Put this in context. City of Jacksonville, it's the largest in the state. They were $199 million. Hillsborough County, $276. You had $200 million in Broward County, but just in Manatee County alone, $112,468,805 of what we are terming as excessive and wasteful spending. This is the amount that they have exceeded what should be their budget reasonably when indexing for inflation and population growth. So what does this mean? How do we put it all in context? We'll do it today. Just like all other local governments that we've done this, we're going to try to break it down just so everyone understands just how bad the situation is. Since 2019, the Manatee County General Fund budget has increased by $279 million in just 5 years. In just 5 years, the local general fund budget, now there's two portions of your budget. There is the total budget, which is also going up, we're not concerned, we are concerned with overspending there, but for our numbers, we are just using the general fund budget. This is the portion of your budget that is funded by your property tax dollars, okay? Just the general fund budget in just 5 years has increased $269 million. That is an increase in their budget in just 5 years of 69%. The largest we have seen so far as we're doing these calculations. That is a huge increase. Now, your Manatee County has grown 61,545 people roughly over the last 5 years also. Now, this number is larger than some of the other counties and cities that we have come across. There has been more people moving into this county than a lot of the other counties and cities. Now, your local government is going to say, that's why we needed all that extra money. We've already accounted for it in our calculations. We've already accounted for the increase in population and inflation. That's a pretty big increase. But what is even bigger is the amount that the budget went up. And we're going to show you just exactly what we mean. When you take that budget increase and divide it by the amount of people that moved in, that means for every new person that moves into Manatee County, the general fund budget, your local government has been spending $4,300 per person. That's moving into Manatee County, they are spending over $17,000 per person. Just think about this. If you're a family of 4, purchase a brand new home in a new subdivision in Manatee County, and let's say you're paying $6,000 in property taxes, your local government is spending and expanding to the tune of $17,000 just to deliver services for the increases in population. That math does not math. The argument can be made, it should be made, and it should be done, as when population increases, the cost per person should be going down, not up. Private sector does it. Private sector looks for efficiencies, they look for technology, they look for everything that it possibly can do to deliver a better outcome and better services at a lower unit cost. Unfortunately, government doesn't do the same. So on top of that, for that increase in those 61,000 people, local government has added 472 new employees just to accommodate for 61,000 people. That doesn't add up. 472 employees are what we see in some cities alone. Nevertheless, not to take care of 61,000 people. This is why the budget has gotten away from them. Now, 472 people. What is your local government going to say? I'm going to predict what they're going to say. They're going to say that it's a lot of fire and it's a lot of police. It is a lot of fire and a lot of police. Because every time a government grows, every time a population grows, they have to meet certain metrics. If you have X amount of people moving into an area, you're going to need that much more police. If X amount of people move into the area, you're going to need that much more fire. But not 472. This means that they're growing government. They're hiring librarians, administrators, clerks, and expanding government at a rate that is probably unprecedented in this area. So to recap, according to our calculations, Manatee County current budget should be $112 million less than what it is right now. And again, to be clear, is inflation and population growth. Now, before we go any further, before I forget, this is for the press in the back. Once this is over, you're going to get your information, you're going to walk over, and you're going to start talking to your local elected officials. Your elected officials are going to, because we have seen this in every 6 counties. All the 6 counties, you guys are going to go talk to your local elected officials. The elected officials are going to get behind the microphone and say, of course it went up. We had inflation in population. And that's all the media has ever asked. What I'm asking you guys is ask the follow-up question. Well, CFO Ingoglia, according to the calculations that numbers have been crunched by CPAs in his office, said they've already accounted for inflation population. What do you say then? I really want to hear that answer. So if we can do that. So if that $112 million was not spent, what would the effect be on everyday people who live here in your county? What it means is that your millage rate could have been reduced by 0.019 mils. And in our estimation, still delivered the essential services and not missed a beat. How can we safely say this? Because if property values have not gone up over the past 5 years, and property values have not gone up over the past 5 years, the budget would have realistically been $112 million less. They took the extra money, they spent it. They should be giving it back to you. So what does that mean for people in this county? What it means with that tax cut that in my belief they should have been giving back to you guys, if you had a home that had a taxable value of $400,000, you would have been saving $436 a year in property taxes just on the general fund budget. That's not even including the school boards. Don't get me started on school board wasteful spending. That would be just for that. If you had a property that was assessed at $500,000, you've been saving $545 a year. This is real money that should be put back in the hands of the people who earned it and funded the government. If you have a property that is worth $600,000 in assessed value, you would have saved about $655 a year. Again, real money back in the hands of the people who are paying and funding this excess. Now, the grand total of excessive and wasteful spending that we have now identified over 7 counties is $1.1 billion. That is not $1.1 billion cumulative total over 5 years. That is $1.1 billion in excessive and wasteful spending in year 24-25. That's not cumulative. That is now, right now. So, governments, according to our calculations, and you know what, it's not just according to our calculations. By a show of hands here, how many of you have seen their property tax bills and see property taxes starting to go sky high and you're starting to get concerned? That's what I thought. It's not just our calculations, it's the taxpayers who feel it. And what are they feeling is that local governments are wasting their hard-earned tax dollars left and right. Then they cry poor and they continue to want more and more. They try to put tax referendums on the ballot. They try to put tax increases in front of the county commission, and the people have had enough. Your property taxes have been going up not because of essential services, but because of excessive, wasteful spending by career politicians and bureaucrats who think that you are an endless ATM for them. As your CFO, I will not stand idly by whether you are a Democrat or a Republican while Florida families are being taxed to the hilt and being taxed out of their homes. It is always good to remind government that it is not their money, it is our money. Local governments are expanding because they can, not because they need to. And local governments, unfortunately, are absolutely tone deaf to what is going on. They need to listen more to the people on Main Street than the people who are walking the halls of local government. They need to stop listening to bureaucrats, and they need to start listening to you. They need to listen to the grocery store clerk and stop listening to the city manager making $250,000 and $300,000 a year. Affordable housing is also a big issue in the state of Florida. Many local officials will get up during campaign time, they'll get up during the county commission or the city commission, they'll get in front of the TV and they'll say that we need more affordable housing. It is a #1 issue that needs to be solved, and I wholeheartedly agree with them. But yet when we tell them exactly how to make housing more affordable for their constituents, which means cutting property taxes, they aren't interested. Well, I wonder why. Local governments cannot complain about the lack of affordable housing at the same time they're creating the affordable housing crisis. They can cut their bloated budgets and deliver property tax relief. They are choosing not to. Remember that. They're choosing not to give the money back to you. They want to keep it themselves. Every dollar that a young couple starting a family saves on property taxes matter. Every dollar that a retired couple on Social Security saves on property taxes matter. Every dollar that a single mom working 2 jobs saves on property taxes matter. Every day, people in the private sector learn to do without. It's time governments do the same. Floridians have made it clear that they want property tax relief. Floridians have made it clear that they are tired of the wasteful, excessive, bloated budgets of local governments and continuing to come back to the taxpayers asking for more, more, more. And the governor and I have also been very clear that we are looking to offer real, true property tax reform on the November 2026 ballot with the eye of hopefully and possibly eliminating property taxes on homesteaded properties altogether. One last visual for you guys. To put it in visual context and wrap up what we just did. There's Manatee County's general fund budget. You can see we start off in the blue, and where the blue ends is where we should be. That's where Manatee budget actually is. That is 100 excessive spending that belongs in your bank accounts, not the bank accounts of government. At this time, it is my honor to bring up our speakers. Jeff Kottkamp is the Executive Vice President and General Counsel of Florida Tax Watch. He's also the incoming CEO of Tax Watch. Everybody give a big round of applause to Jeff Kottkamp.
Thank you so much. It is great to be back in beautiful Manatee County. Be here with my dear friend, President Galvano, former Representative Mark Flanagan. Mayor, thank you for being here. In case you don't know, Florida Tax Watch is nonpartisan. It's Florida's leading government watchdog and public policy think tank. It has been for over 45 years. And so let me just first thank the CFO for highlighting the need for transparency and accountability in local government spending. It's a conversation long overdue. Please give him a round of applause. Interestingly, about a year and a half ago at Tax Watch, we started getting calls from all across the state, from the Tampa Bay area, from the Orlando area, from South Florida, and it was the same recurring theme. Would you guys please look at our local government budgets? It's out of control. And about a year ago, our Board of Trustees voted to, beginning in 2026, to open local chapters of Florida Tax Watch to help provide some oversight for these local government budgets. So the timing of this conversation led by our CFO and our governor are just perfect. And of course, as he has pointed out, you cannot talk about spending by the government if you don't talk about taxes. And not to overburden you with numbers, but we've taken a similar approach to the CFO, but looked for a decade. So this just reinforces what he just said because it shows an even greater trend line. So over the last 10 years here in Manatee County, the property taxes have increased 145.8%, while at the same time, population and inflation has been 74.7%. So almost double. And again, that just reinforces the numbers he has given you, that this isn't just over a 5-year period. It's been happening for a while. And during that same period of time, Manatee County has had the 6th highest property tax increase in the state out of 67 counties. We certainly recognize, as the CFO has, growing counties certainly have their own challenges, but to be double the increase of inflation of population is far beyond any challenge that a growing county has. And of course, property tax is not the only source of revenue for local government. They also collect a local option sales tax. It's another 1% here in Manatee County. There's a local option fuel tax, an additional 12 cents a gallon here in Manatee County, a local option tourist tax, 5% here in Manatee County, a local communication services tax, a public service tax, the impact fees, and of course you have your independent special districts. So if you're living here, you're getting taxed in many directions. And unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be much control over how all of these taxes in total, let alone property tax, are being scrutinized and controlled. Now at TaxWatch, we put out a How Counties Compare report every year. In our last report, Manatee County was number 9 in Florida for total county expenditures per capita and 50th in per capita spending for public safety. So that's out of whack as well. And I just want to be clear, and I know the CFO shares this view, this is not meant to be an attack on local government. It's a wake-up call. It's time to say, look at your core functions of government. As he said, the core function is safety and security. And many of these other things might be nice, but are they core functions? It's something that your taxpayer dollars should be spent on. And that's really the question I think the CFO is raising here. So we believe at TaxWatch that the citizens of Florida, the citizens here in Manatee County, deserve government at all levels that lives within its means, just as you do as taxpayers. So again, thank you to our CFO and our governor, our lieutenant governor, for shining light on both the increase in property tax and local government spending. And I know that we all want to work together to provide recommendations and some guidelines for local government to bring this spending under control and do what they all should be doing, is putting the taxpayers first. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I call up the next speaker, I just want to piggyback off of what Jeff Kottkamp said, is that this is not meant to be an attack. Is it a criticism? Yes. But it's a wake-up call to local governments, whether it's a blue city, blue county, or a red city, red county. Government has sort of gotten out of whack. And local governments can sit there and argue with our numbers, but the numbers are the numbers. We're actually taking it from their own budgets. And I was not privy to the calculations that Jeff Kottkamp put up, but they're mirroring each other. So you have two independent people who are not inside government validating that the numbers that we are presenting here are true and accurate. So again, you are going to hear local government, big government apologists, Sunday editorial writers make those excuses, but hopefully you guys know better. At this time, I want to call up Dave Spicer, who is a local Manatee business owner. Dave?
Thank you. I want to start by thanking Chief Ingoglia for his hard work and getting us all here today. My name is Dave Spicer. My family moved here in the early 70s, 1972. I've lived most of my life here in Manatee County. I've seen a lot of changes, some good, some not so good. I currently live in a rural area in Duet on a horse ranch, and our taxes continue to go up every year while our return on our investment goes down. Every year we get less and less services, we get less from the government, and it's just ridiculous. As a business owner and a resident, when you spend your money, you look at the ROI. What am I getting for my money? You buy a car, you buy a home, you buy a business, what's it giving me? The county is a negative ROI. Every dollar we give them, we get back less. We give them $10, they give us back a $5 bill saying, you owe us $5 more. It's really gotten out of hand. And the reckless spending has got to stop. It's constantly going on every day. I see county vehicles, code enforcement officers driving $70,000 and $80,000 trucks. The average citizen in Manatee County can't afford a $70,000 vehicle. The county buys these vehicles and then tells them, you can't use them as a truck. Why are we buying them trucks? The only thing they put in the back of them are illegally placed yard sale signs, real estate signs, and if one of the county commissioners doesn't like his opponent during an election, he has them go pick up his signs. Short of that, they don't use them for trucks. Neither do building inspectors or building officials. Why don't they buy a fleet of Priuses? Why am I paying them to drive around in $70,000 trucks when I drive a $20,000 truck? As a business owner, I'm not going to put my employees in a nicer vehicle than I drive. And as taxpayers, we are the business owners. We are the ones in charge. And the waste is ridiculous. These people are driving these vehicles home. If it was 3 vehicles, I wouldn't even say a word. But when you have hundreds of them, how much gas are they burning going from work to home, home to work? It may not seem like a lot, but when you add it up over 100, 200 trucks, these things get terrible gas mileage. I know, I own a ranch. I drive trucks, okay? You don't ever purchase a large truck because of the fuel economy. You just don't do it. If you do, you got more money than I got. This needs to stop. This kind of waste, things like this, is ridiculous. It's the little things like that. And like I said, I said earlier, the reason the county wants to keep the budget so big, if you run a business that brings in $10,000 a year, you can account for every nickel. You have a business that brings in $10 billion a year, you can hide a lot of shady stuff. And that's what's going on here. I'm not a politician. I'm not a public speaker. They did a great job. Hard for me to follow that, I'm not going to lie. But I'm speaking as someone who writes checks every day to this county for taxes. I get nothing for my money. It's ridiculous. The return on investment is terrible. It's really got to stop. They complain, they say, well, the more people that move here, the more money we need. Okay, let's look at that for a second, all right? I'm gonna use an example. My daughter, she's here somewhere, she lives in a subdivision in Parish called Bella Lago. It's not quite finished yet. It encompasses about 3 square miles of land, okay? So I talked to residents in there and I said, what are your property taxes? I got no answers, 0, that were below $5,000. So let's work with the low number, the 5,000. 1,083 homes going up. That's $5.8 million to the county. And the county tells me my taxes have to go up because more people are moving here. So what they're saying is, we've got this 3 square mile area. We have $5.4 million. It's not enough. They can't provide services to 3 square miles for $5.4 million. The county's cost to build that subdivision was 0. The developer puts in the roads, the infrastructure, everything else. The county made money off impact fees, plan review fees, permit fees, well in excess of $1 million. And then they're going to look at me and say, more people want to live here, so you have to give me more money. If you can't manage 3 square miles for $5.4 million, I don't know what to tell you. That's insanity. And then for them to say, here's the thing as a business, okay? If you've got 10 customers and you've got to make $1 million a year, you need $100,000 from each of those customers to meet your goal. If you need to make $1 million a year and you've got 2 million customers, you need 50 cents from each one of them. I think my math was right. Anyways, the point is, the more people move here, that's that many more tax accounts. That's that much more money going into the pot. Why am I having to pay more money when the county is getting more money? It doesn't make sense. If the county was a private business, it would have been bankrupt in 6 months, 3 months probably. It's ridiculous. I'm not a politician. I don't know how all this goes. But at the end of the day, the spending is out of control and it's got to stop. And I want to thank CFO Ingoglia for his hard work and dedication to stand up and his commitment to get this under control. It needs to come under control. And the only people who can do it is him and the people. Everyone has to stand up and say something. It has to stop.
Just for transparency and for the record, I drive a 2016 Tahoe with 184,000 miles on it. I'm just saying. You know, but Dave is right. When government grows, it becomes harder to rein in the costs. And I think that's why it's important for a county like Manatee to get their arms wrapped around escalating costs. Because in small rural counties, counties that have 15,000 people, if you make a $20,000 or $30,000 mistake or waste in a small county like that, everyone knows it because it's highlighted. But once you start getting into counties that have $2 billion budgets, it's easy for them to make $20 and $30 million mistakes that you guys are paying for. It's harder to identify it because the government is so large. As government grows, it becomes less and less efficient. And with that loss of efficiency, the burden on the taxpayers becomes more, and more. That's what you're seeing with the federal government right now. That's why you are seeing President Trump fight so hard to right-size the federal government, because he's recognized that, and he's working hard to try to fix that. So with that, we're going to take questions from the media only. I'll be more than happy to stay around and answer a couple questions if the media has any questions. But please, before I take any questions, just promise me, when the big government apologists, tax and spend politicians say that it's because of inflation and population, are you going to tell them that he's already accounted for that? Just please tell me you're going to tell them that, because I really want to hear their responses. Are we good? I didn't hear a yes. Huh? No? Maybe? Are we good? All right. Question.
Yeah, I have a question regarding, you mentioned a few different counties with wasteful spending. I just want your thoughts. Some Hillsborough County leaders have spent nearly $18 million in tourist tax funds for renovations at Stein Brenner Schools. How do you feel about that?
So I'm going to leave that up to the voters to decide. I will tell you personally, and I've been consistent with this, as long as I've been in the legislature, I do not believe tax dollars should be going and subsidizing public stadiums. That's just my firm belief. Yes, next question. Yes. You may. Only if you promise to ask them the follow-up questions. All right, you good?
I know you pointed to increasing staffing over the past 5 or 6 years. The audit also asked for records of DEI programs or climate change programs. When you talk about excessive spending, are you able to point to any other programs or initiatives that you found that were excessive?
So there are two separate things happening at the same time. There is the DOGE audit that our office is a part of, and that is identifying specific line items that are wasteful spending, things that the taxpayers would not agree with. What we're doing here today is the FAFO audit, which is the Florida Agency for Fiscal Oversight. This is high-level spending details of how much they're overspending. So, to put it in context, our office is calculating $112 million of excessive and wasteful spending. DOGE, when their reports will come out, will highlight some of the specific instances within that $112 million. Does that make sense? Okay.
Follow-up?
Yes, sir.
What happens next after this audit?
It's up to the voters. What happens next is it's up to the voters. I'm doing this as a way to inform the public what their local governments are doing with their property tax dollars. What the people do with the information is going to be up to them. There are always elections. The people are going to have to make a choice of whether do they want to continue electing the people who are wasting their tax dollars. Regardless of county, regardless of city, all we are doing is arming them with information. Another thing that we are doing is arming them with information in advance of a constitutional amendment that should be on the November 2026 ballot for property tax reform. But it's also an informational exercise for my friends in Tallahassee when you were talking about state reps and state senators, because every local government will go to the state legislature and ask for more money in the form of appropriations. And the list of money that they ask for in the form of appropriations sometimes is really obnoxious. I mean, tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars that they ask for. Now, I would argue that if you have a city or a county who has already proven that you are wastefully spending the money that they have now, I personally don't think it's a good idea that we give them more money so they can double down on wasteful spending. Yes, sir.
So I got two questions as well. I was with you in Hillsborough County as you announced some of the, what you call wasteful spending.
I don't call it wasteful. The taxpayers call it wasteful. I'm just identifying the number.
So I want to talk about that. You identified the grand numbers, but not any specific line item. And I know you mentioned that it will come out as the Doge audit and the Doge report comes out. But why not share some of those now? There's some folks that are saying, well, you're not showing me any receipts, you're just showing me numbers. Why trust what your numbers are saying?
Well, because my numbers come directly from their budget, and inflation and population growth is the number. But what local governments, it's a trick that local governments are playing on you, and they say, well, why doesn't CFO Ingoglia give me specific line items? You know what the specific line item is? $112 million, and here's why. What they need to understand, local elected officials, is that the growth of government itself is the wasteful spending. Now, there's more wasteful spending on top of that. You can have a local government that actually increases their budget along with inflation and population. And first of all, nobody says that it should, and it has to increase with inflation and population. We, at the state, it's the opposite. Our numbers actually go down. But let's make the assumption that local governments are just increasing their spending according to inflation and population. There's wasteful spending in that number, specific line items. If they're going to sit there and they're going to say, okay, show me every dollar of $112 million worth of wasteful spending, it's a trick. Because it's the growth in government itself that is the waste. Because all that has to be paid by the taxpayer. If we have proven here today that government is vastly outpacing the budgets that should have been in place according to inflation and population, everything after that is waste. I don't care which line item you put on in there. I don't care how you spin it, how you dress it up. It's all waste. And you know how I know it's all waste? Because it shouldn't have been there in the first place, and the taxpayers have had enough. Yes. I'll come back to you.
I was just gonna ask, do you offer any suggestions? I know you said that you're gonna leave that to the voters, but some of these county commissioners, I'm sure not just in Manatee County, are newly elected. So some of this is least probably brought out from the past 4 years.
Here's my advice to local elected officials. Govern the way you campaign. You stood in front of a crowd and said that you were going to be fiscally responsible, but nobody ever questions the budget. Do you know how frustrating that is? My first budget that I presented as an appropriations chair when I was in the Florida House was less than the previous year's budget. Now, it finished above there because I didn't have control of it. I wasn't the Speaker of the House. But you have to go in there and start thinking like it's not their money. It's somebody else's money. It's unfortunate. They campaign one way, govern a complete opposite way when they get there. It is what it is. They need to take more care of and be a better steward of the property tax dollars that they're receiving. Last question.
I was talking with a couple in Largo, the O'Garas, who sent you a postcard. They say it says you lack values.
Is that what the card said?
They say your office.
Well, hold on. Is that what the card said?
That's what they say.
Oh, that's what. So you haven't verified what the card said. I'm just. But the card wasn't sent to me either. I have no idea what the card said. I had no idea what the card said. I did not see the card, and law enforcement went and investigated that and just make sure there wasn't a threat assessment, right? I trust law enforcement to make sure that they are protecting our communities. Maybe some other people don't, but I do. Guys, thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you. Very cool. At the Republican Women's Club? It's really nice. Good, good. Well, you got it. No shit. Yep. You got it. We really don't. Twice in 1 week. I know. We're getting them in the office. But it's medicine out of work.